My name is Bill Mason. 25 years ago, I was supposed to be one of the best jewel thieves in the country. David Niven was the Phantom in the Pink Panther, and I've been referred to as the Phantom in my career because of the way I could spirit in and out of things.
Thousands of people, and it is interesting to note most of them women, have gathered daily hoping to catch a glimpse of Sir Charles Lytton, the man accused of being the notorious Phantom.
One of the key differences between Bill and Sir Charles Lytton in the Pink Panther is that Sir Charles Lytton was very, very well known. He was a celebrity and he moved in these very highfalutin circles, and in fact his celebrity was his cover. In Bill's case, it was just the opposite.
I never left calling cards. I didn't want to leave any clues laying around.
He didn't want to be a celebrity. He didn't want any notoriety. But at the same time, he wanted to be able to move in the same circles as the people that he was robbing.
I became friends with both sides of the class system. I seemed to get along with everybody.
He was suave and debonair, and he dressed up real nice and was able to get into nice parties and things like that.
You have a wonderful smile.
I have a great deal to smile about.
It was very easy to engage people in conversations. If you wanted to find out who so-and-so was sitting over at a table over here, you could engage somebody else and they'd tell you. If you lead them along a little bit, what you wanted to know about anything.
The Pink Panther is in my safe at...
Your Highness, please, don't say it, not here.
I can tell you about the very, very moment in which I decided I was going to write this book with Bill. I got him to tell me about the first time that he hit Phyllis Diller.
I was watching Phyllis on Mike Douglas or somebody's show, and she'd walk around with tremendous amounts of jewelry.
She was working at the Music Carnival, which is a great big event in Cleveland, and he was very familiar with the hotel where she was staying.
Scaled down the side of the building and made her room and walked away with about $250,000. So I always tell Phyllis she's the one that got me started in this thing. I studied a lot of things. I studied alarm systems, and I studied locks, and I studied safes, usually by buying them and trying to take them apart.
Bill was, I guess, a craftsman. He was intrigued by the fact that there was this thing that people assumed simply couldn't be done, and the more high-steady he pulled that baffled the police.
I was a master jewel thief, and it was my extraordinary hobby. I loved the planning. I loved figuring out how to outwit a bunch of security installations. You do the job, and your adrenaline is really pumping then, and then zip bang, it's over. You got away with it, you know you got away with it, and what do you do to build up to another one?
It really wasn't about the money for Bill eventually.
It was more of a sideline. It wasn't, I wasn't a full-time jewel thief. I was bringing in good money. I was working in the real estate business. I owned buildings, I owned property.
The real estate business he was in was a great cover for him for a couple of reasons. First of all, real estate people run around at all kinds of odd hours and weekends, which made it easier to explain absences to his family. It also gave him the perfect excuse to case potential jobs.
Where is everybody?
By that time, I had already done some other things, like hitting the mafia guys.
He robbed the mafia in Cleveland. They owned this hotel, and they had this gigantic safe sitting inside an office. There was no way in. The door was alarmed. Bill didn't try to go through the door. He just rented the room next door and went through the wall, which was tissue thin, and it only took him a couple of minutes.
Luck does have something to do with it. Luck that people leave doors open.
So he had this big hole in the wall, and he put a stool in front of this safe and grabbed the handle to right himself, and it opened.
People have told me that I'm a very lucky guy, and I hate that.
The guy just forgot to close the safe.
I was always nonviolent. I didn't want to have anybody be at home.
He was out to rob some jewels, and if there was a confrontation in the offing, he had no problem walking away.
Once a woman was drunk in bed, didn't answer the door, didn't answer the phone, and I didn't know she was in there. I almost had a heart attack when I saw her in there, but she loved diamonds, lots of diamonds, very large diamonds.
It did get dangerous once in a while. He was in an apartment building and had just taken a 5-carat flawless diamond, was heading down the hall when he heard somebody shout to stop.
People would ask me, weren't you scared? Well, hell, yeah, of course you're scared. Sometimes they have a tendency to shoot first and ask questions later.
He simply took off down the end of the hall and heard a shot go off. He'd been shot clear through the midsection, but he couldn't very well see a doctor where he was because somebody might have reported that they fired a fleeing thief. So he got on a plane and went to Cleveland, where a cousin of his was a surgeon.
He was able to operate on me and save my life. I mean, I actually died on the table. He about died too, because he was not claiming it was a gunshot wound.
In order to make the hospital record kind of foot with what happened, they said it was
A spear gun injury.
Where you go spearfishing in Cleveland, I have no idea.
I mean, you'd think that would have slowed me down completely, but it didn't. People love to live on the high floors. They feel that they're so secure up there, they don't bother to lock their patio doors.
Bill was very comfortable in apartment buildings, high-rises, and things like that, condos.
So I loved apartment buildings, and I would prospect for people, and if I found that they lived in houses, I would usually just disregard them. I was only looking for people in apartment buildings.
Bill's most daring score was probably Armand Hammer's condo in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Hammer was one of the richest men in the world, and he had a condo on the 17th floor of a high-rise overlooking a beach in Fort Lauderdale. So he cased the place and found out that the door was heavily locked and heavily alarmed.
Through my endeavors with the city directory, I found that there was a corporate apartment next door, which was very seldom occupied.
He figured that he could get into that apartment and crawl all the way around the building on a very narrow ledge and get into the Hammer place.
I wanted to do it a night when they were just leaving out to dinner, where all the stuff should be there. And I also wanted to do it when it was raining, and I wanted to do it so nobody would be walking along the street and see me dangling from a 17-story ledge up there.
On the proverbial dark and stormy night, he threw a rope up to the second floor, which is where the staircase started for security reasons, climbed up to that, got himself up and into this apartment, and then stepped out on this ledge that was about 8 or 9 inches wide.
I got clear around the building and finally got on their patio, and the door's open. And the front door. I could have walked in the front door.
Because it never occurred to them that anybody would come in through the balcony, which of course was his specialty.
I'm 68 years old. I couldn't do that today for sure. I knocked off somebody for $1 million. I walked away with it clean. They never did find out about it.
He inadvertently did some of his victims a favor because the size of the insurance claims that they filed were so far in excess of what it is that he actually took.
Do they know? They collected their insurance money.
These people would put in these gigantic claims, even though some of the stuff was fake.
Who am I to judge people? But I guess I did judge them, or I wouldn't have tried to rip them all off. It became a game. I could go out and make a great deal of money one night, then I'd be out looking the next day for something else.
Bill eventually went to prison. The police invaded the house that he was living in, and he really didn't have a whole lot of evidence around, but one of the things that he had was Phyllis Diller's address book. It had names and private phone numbers of everybody from Bob Hope to the President of the United States. That was kind of their entree into prosecuting Bill, and he did spend some time in prison.
Tell you, prison's no fun. I spent 3 years there, and I do not want to go back there.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Inspector.
You don't meet the nicest people in those places.
Bill and I once spent a bunch of hours trying to tote up the amount of money that he'd stolen in his life, and it comes up to something like between $30 and $35 million. Bill is one of the best that ever lived.
I've gotten a little older and a little wiser in my 67 years. But I wish I could still pull another one off. I really do.